Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to the channel. Sorry for any last minute confusion of whether or not I was doing this stream. I only realised as soon as I went live that I actually hadn't listed the live stream on the channel. It was down as an unlisted video. So I was sitting here at the start of the stream wondering where everybody was. Not to sound big-headed, but the fact that there was nobody talking in the comments section had me slightly concerned. And then I realised that I hadn't actually published the live stream to the wider audience, and it was only me who could actually see it. So we are a little bit late starting today, but we're here to go over the starting 11. We're here to go over a kind of late match preview, talk about our feelings going into the game, and of course to hear your opinions about tonight as well. That's why I've brought in these streams this season, so that we can hear what everybody wants to say, and we can talk a little bit more about it. So hello and welcome in. Hello to everybody who's a channel member. Hello to all the regular subscribers as well. Celtic's Europa League campaign kicks off tonight in Serbia, in Belgrade, Serbia. Crvena Zvezda is the opponents. They are currently top of the Serbian top flight. They're unbeaten in their start to the season. In fact, they've won all 7 of their games so far to begin the campaign, including their match at the weekend in the derby against Partizan Belgrade. So tonight's not an easy feat. We have kind of, you know, similar parallels with them. You know, we do match up on some things. So, for example, the unbeaten league start. Both of us have been unbeaten. Granted, they've played more games and won every single one of them, whereas we have dropped points in our derby. But the other thing, and I think one of the big things about tonight, is this is also kind of one of these sides who are probably underachieving. They were knocked out of the Champions League qualifiers by a late goal to Paphos in what was a somewhat shock exit from, I think, this side anyway. I don't know about them. I don't know if they were expecting it or what they were looking for, where their expectations lie as a Belgrade supporter. But they were knocked out as well, put into the Europa League. So both two European sides who are former winners of the top competition in the European Cup, who are champions of their respective nations, that probably should be in the Champions League. It's a tale of similar stories for both sides. And here is the team on screen now. So before I get into any questions and all your points and all that, let's go over the starting 11, shall we? Which is 10 out of the 11 players that I expected, with somebody who is a really... I think you all know who I'm surprised by being in the team tonight. I'm not even going to beat around the bush and come up with superlatives for it. I think you all know who it is. Anyway, the starting 11 goes as follows for Celtic: Kasper Schmeichel, Colby Donovan, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Liam Scales, Kieran Tierney. Midfield three of Callum McGregor, Rio Hatate and Benjamin Nigren. And a front three of Yang, Daisen Maeda and Sebastian Tenekte. That is the starting 11 for Celtic. As I said, I think 10 out of the 11 I had in my predicted starting 11 in the match preview video yesterday. The only change from my predicted side is that Yang starts for Michel-Ange Balikwisha, who I thought would have been out on the right-hand side tonight. But listen, I'm not a Yang fan. Do I think he's good enough for these games? No, I don't. But he offers positivity. I think that it kind of matches what Teneke wants to do on the right-hand side in terms of intention. In terms of quality, no, don't think he's anywhere near it. But in terms of intention, in terms of what he wants to do, I think you've got somebody on that right-hand side who, for all his faults, at least tries to go forward and tries to attack the game. And I think that's why Brendan Rodgers has maybe went for him. And maybe just because of the more kind of reserved start that Balikwisha has had, maybe he's trying to protect him in a sense. I don't know. We'll see as the game goes on. We'll see if he gets questioned about that decision. It's only really a question that will be decisioned if the game doesn't go our way, you know? If the game goes our way, then nothing will get made of it. If it doesn't, we'll ask why the £5 million winger is lying on the bench for Yang, who's somebody who we've all questioned whether or not he's good enough. But that's something that we'll talk about as the game goes on. I am surprised to see Yang start, but hopefully he turns up and does something for us this evening, as much as I doubt it. We've got Ranny's Rovers, who's been a member for 3 months, saying glad that Donovan's starting. It's sink or swim for him this game to see where he is and his ability, if he's ready for this level or not. I agree with the notion of what you're saying. I don't think sink or swim is entirely fair. I wouldn't say that if it doesn't go well for Donovan tonight, I don't think it's a sink type situation for Colby. I think it's more of a, right, we know where he is, but I don't think we need to suddenly be like, oh God, right, I don't think we need to overreact about it. Unless it's drastically bad, unless he has like one of those Greg Taylor and Dortmund type performances, which I hope he doesn't. And I think he'll have a good game. Look, listen, I've said this a million times. Well, I've not said it a million times. I said it yesterday. But I said this in my video yesterday, that I truly don't believe there's much of a gap between Tony Ralston and Colby Donovan. And you know me, I love Brendan Rodgers, but I would say these words to Brendan Rodgers' face if he said it in a press conference. Spare me the drivel about Ralston being experienced in these games. Experience counts for a lot in football, it counts for a lot in European competition, but I think it only counts when you're somebody who is Mr. Reliable and has done it consistently for years upon years. Ralston hasn't done it consistently in Europe for years upon years. He has sporadic European appearances. Every time somebody goes down injured, he'll pop into the team. That's about it. He's not exactly well vetted. He's not exactly experienced in the field, playing 6-8 European games every single year. And I don't think Donovan, in terms of ability, is a million miles off of Ralston. So I don't think there's a difference. And the way that I look at it is, if you want to build experience in a guy like Colby Donovan, and this is why Rodgers has probably taken the approach for today, if you want to build experience in players like that, then you've got to play them in these games when they have these opportunities. Because as soon as Alistair Johnson's back and he's fit, Colby Donovan won't see the pitch in the Europa League games. And I'm not saying that out of a level of disrespect for Colby. If he does well, I'd love to see him play more in European games. But Alistair Johnson is one of the best right-backs Celtic have had in the last 10 years. And he's obviously going to play when fit. So, listen, I think you've got to take these opportunities to bed somebody like Donovan in, to understand if he can be relied upon as somebody we should be using for European quota in years going forward, whether or not he should be in the squad ahead of certain people going forward. And it's the way that you want to see it go forward for me anyway. Listen, whether or not he's good enough, we'll find out tonight, but I am glad he's in the starting 11. Before I get to your questions, I've not even read through the substitutions or the Red Star team, which I am going to try and get in a moment. Hopefully they've posted their side on social media. But on the bench for Celtic tonight, by the way, for those who are asking, is Vinny Sansalo, Ross Doohan, Michel-Ange Balikwisha, Luke McCowan, Kelechi Iheanacho, Johnny Kenny, Arne Engels, Paulo Bernardo, Marcelo Sarace, Dane Murray, James Forrest, and Anthony Ralston. So Ralston has made the matchday squad, but I'm glad that Donovan's in it. And plus, look, listen, if he's not fully fit either, then there's no point in putting him in the team. Like, what would we do there if he just? I mean, he looked jiggered. I think it was it the Derby, his last game? It wasn't it, before he was injured? And I remember watching him bomb it back down the line, and he looked jiggered. So there's no point in playing him tonight. Even if Donovan isn't at the level yet, you know, we may as well try and get him up to that level, and you do that by playing him. Now, Crevena Zvezda haven't posted their squad as of yet on their social media, so I will keep you updated if it comes out. To be honest, I don't think it matters. I think we know what to expect of their team, and it's not like we watch these players every week, so it's not going to make a great deal of difference. So how are we feeling, chat? How are we feeling? I think I went into this game a little more optimistic than I initially thought I would have this time, maybe last week, or especially after the exit of the Champions League qualifiers. But I still don't, listen, I don't expect Celtic to go here tonight and like mop the floor with Belgrade and come back with this big great win. I think, to be honest, a draw would be a good result for Celtic tonight. I think any other year, especially last year, I would be saying a draw would be a bit of a disappointment. But with the way our squad has kind of regressed and the way our season has started, I think a draw would be somewhat appreciated by myself. I think it would be indicative of where we are, you know, like, kind of like, oh, we're celebrating a draw rather than a win. But I don't know, I'm slightly more optimistic. Look, these are it's just annoying because I'm going to come to you guys just now, but for me, any other year, Red Star are a team that Celtic should be beating home or away. Whether it's Champions League, Europa League, whatever, we have so much more financial muscle, we have so much more experience. I don't know, that it's just a team that I think that it's just a side that we should be beating. We should have ourselves set higher above. And we have to talk about, and the only reason that we talk about ourselves being on levels with Red Star is because our board have allowed that narrative to be the case, because they haven't decided to pull ahead of sides like Red Star. So listen, I'm not saying I'm confident of Celtic winning the game or anything like that tonight, but what I am saying is I think that, you know, we should be a little bit optimistic, and why not, I suppose? You know, why not? That's what I would say. Right, let's get to you guys. Let's have yous dictate the next kind of 20 minutes or so of this stream. because I want to hear everything that you're saying. I mean, Adam's saying, I've seen Yang and I decided we're getting pumped, which, do you know what? It can't be faulted, to be fair. I get that. Alex kind of sums it up by saying we're getting beat. I think there's, quite rightly a lot of pessimism heading into tonight. I mean, how optimistic can you expect folk to be when you can't beat Kairat Almaty? I mean, Red Star are probably significantly better than Kairat Almaty, and I know one's in the Champions League and one's not, but let's be real for a minute here. They probably are significantly better than Kairat. So, it's I think either side of the fence is justifiable. Like, if you're optimistic or if you're pessimistic about tonight, I guess that's what it is. Alex also saying, how is Bernardo not getting a start? Rio has been woeful. Rio's been hot and cold. More cold than hot for me this season. I've not seen too much of him to suggest, I think it's just these European games is the games you expect Rio to stand up, isn't it? And I guess this is one of these games where I think if he doesn't, then we should be having serious conversations about who does start the next European game and the next big game. So it is a huge one for Rio Hatate tonight. We really do need to see him dig deep and give us a performance. So we'll see where it goes. We've got Douglas saying we're getting pumped. Paul saying McGowan for Nygren every day of the week. He's far more positive. I mean, maybe on the eye, yes, but at the same time, Nygren has 6 goal contributions already. That's 6 and 8, I think. So it's not like, I'm not a stats guy, but the stats don't lie. If you contribute to 6 goals, you're doing something right. I think he's contributed to more goals in this team than any player at the minute. So he's clearly doing something right, Benjamin Nygren. I know he doesn't maybe... He's not been too nice in the eye these last few weeks, but if he pop up at the big moments, that's what matters most. We need him to pop up in the big moments tonight. Elliot's saying, I know that we should never wish injuries on our own players, but if Yang and Scales end up in boots at the end of the game, I will be happy. God almighty. That'll rile up some people in the chat. I assume that'll change. Listen, we're in no place to wish injuries on anybody right now. No matter how much we hate them, the squad depth at Celtic ain't great. So I actually wouldn't be too celebratory if anybody ended up in a boot by the end of the game, to be quite honest. It's the last thing we need. I don't think Hatate is overrated by the manager. I think that Rio Hatate is a great player, a technically gifted player. His biggest problem is consistency, which I do agree with on Alex's point. Yeah, listen, these are the games you really... For the likes of Nygren especially, Tenekte and Balikwisha and the new guys, these are the games you really start to form your opinions of them, because I think you can get away with taking a pinch of salt with players' performances in domestic football, whether it's good or whether it's bad. But ultimately, I think these are the games that you start to form their opinions. Because the thing is, if Nygren goes out there tonight and hypothetically scores a hat-trick, we're going to have people on social media going on about how he's the next big thing. And vice versa, if he goes out and drops a stinker, we're going to have people saying he was a waste of money and he's not a Celtic quality player. That's just how it works at this club. And I'm used to that by now, to be quite honest. But I'm trying my best to, especially doing what I do, I feel like I need to give players time. I said this at Tenekte. We're all head over heels about Tenekte at the minute, but if he drops a stinker tonight, the narrative will begin to change. That'll happen, because we love doing that. And we should stop doing that, to be honest. But we'll wait and see. Mackenzie saying with loan Donovan back to down to air when AJ's back. I think a loan could be on the cards for him when he's back. But I'd put him above Ralston in the pecking order. I'd be getting rid of Ralston and keeping Donovan, quite frankly. A lot of Rio hate in the chat tonight. Oof, a lot of Hatate hate. Hatate hate. Let's coin it. Hatate's still living off performances in the 2 to 3 year old games, man. I mean that's unfair. I'm not sitting here aimlessly backing the guy. I've never been want to come out here and be like, oh, Hatate, greatest player since sliced bread. I know there's plenty of people on these kind of things that do that. I've never been there personally, but I don't know. I think it's a bit harsh. No, nobody's been great to start this season. I mean, how many players have been great to start this season? So I don't think we should go all in on one specific player. I think that, honestly, if you want my controversial opinion, I don't think he's the biggest problem in the midfield so far this season. I think it's the one that wears the armband. I think Callum McGregor's been the worst of the midfield this season, to be quite honest. That might rub a few people the wrong way. That's not me, once again, vouching for McGregor to be dropped from the team. But I think his performance levels have been stinking. I think they've dropped significantly. Good at the weekend, don't get me wrong. But I think that McGregor deserves a lot more flack than what Hatate's getting in this chat right now, to be honest. So yeah, that's just my opinion, though, and that's what football is. It's a game of opinions, to be quite honest. Will we win tonight, says Magic. I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, I get you, Alex. Don't worry. I get you. Keep your points coming in. We've got a good 15 minutes or so left, so I want to hear. I'm seeing a couple of people agreeing in the on the point about Callum McGregor. Callum McGregor at the start weekend once again fine, and I don't get too drawn into to big narratives and condemning people for the rest of time. But there has been times so far this season, especially the Kairat games and the Rangers game, when I looked at Callum and went, "Oh dear, it might be time. It might be uncomfortable conversation time." And I've not looked at Hatate and said that, to be honest. I think that Hatate probably needs a little bit of I don't know. He needs a Matt O'Reilly back beside him, I think, to get the best out of him. And he's not had that this past year or so. But listen, I'm not going to spend the whole fucking pre-match stream talking about just Rio Hatate, to be quite honest. Listen. There's players in this team that some people will like and some won't like. It's just fact of life, isn't it? Engels to start over Nigren, says Taltoner. What did I have for dinner? I had a Costco chicken burger because I couldn't be bothered making anything else. Plus, I had a big lunch today. I was out for lunch with the mother and father. So I just had a Costco chicken burger and some chips in the air fryer. You know. Jack Strang saying, I feel we need to change the formation and do something different. Far too predictable at the minute. These are the games where that changes, though. You know, this is... In Europe, we don't come across as predictable. Hence the reason we've done so well last year in the Champions League. I think, you know, Celtic have not played... When was the last time we played a Crevena Zvezda? You know, so we shouldn't be as predictable to these teams. But in Scotland, you're right, we do get predictable. And that's the case when you're winning all the time. You know, these teams have to suss out a way to stop Celtic from winning, and eventually it will catch on. But I think in Europe, once again, I'll come back to what I said about some players when you generate an opinion of things. I think that opinion of formations and game plan and stuff really... tonight in games like this are the ones that really form the wider opinion of things and what most people will agree with. I mean, Adams went all in saying he'd like to see Callum McGregor phased out of the team. He looks way too off it, or has looked way too off it for months. I think it's a bit early to start the conversations. As I said, he's been concerning at times, but I think that by the end of the year we can have that. I think by the end of the season, that's when you go, right, now we'll talk about that. I just think it's such a big thing. Like, it's not something you can just do like that. It's not. And as much as people might think it is, it's just, you can't go from playing a guy for 500 straight games to, like, and I know phasing means, like, okay, you do it slowly, but it's not a conversation you have with him just midway through a season, like, we're going to start phasing you at the team. That's something that I think is just going to, it's just such a big thing. It was the same when, like, and Brown kind of, like, just left, I suppose, which helped. But it was the same. I remember Brown's last couple of seasons weren't exactly fantastic, but we just couldn't take him out the team. It was hard, and maybe we should learn from that mistake. I don't know, but it's not exactly easy. And, like, people will go, "Oh, it's the manager picking his favourites," and I'm like, "Come on, no wonder he's his favourite. The guy's worked with him for the best part of a decade, and he's been one of his most reliable players for a decade. I think it's fair to have your favourites at that point. It's different when it's somebody you've maybe signed, but McGregor is somebody who's generally been a stalwart at the club, so it's not easy." Cheers to the Pepsi. Anyway, these are long-term things we should be talking about tonight. we should be talking about tonight. Let's see. To be fair, this is Rayan saying, to be fair, I do think the midfield needs rotated a lot more. I agree. Until January last season, the midfield would be rotated a lot with everybody getting game time. Yeah, no, I agree. We talked about this in the Celtic exchange the other night, me, Tino and Asim. And I think, especially at the weekend against Hibs, we've got to start seeing the likes of Bernardo coming into the team. We've got to see Engels getting into the team. Now that the European football is starting properly, I do think we'll see it. The thing is that, like, between the start of the season and where we are now, there hasn't been a lot of football. Like, let's be real for a minute. There hasn't been a lot. So rotation, it's very early to get overly concerned about rotation, I think. I think now is when it starts. Now that the actual European football is underway, this is when we can start it. And then you've got the whole thing about balance, haven't you? You've, like, Brendan said it openly. There is a lack. So let's just scrap what I'm saying and start a conversation here. What's one of the main criticisms Celtic fans have been having of this team so far since we've started the season? It's been, we don't look cohesive. We don't look gelled. We look estranged from each other. How do you fix that? You don't fix that by rotating all the time. So it's a double-edged sword. Of course, you want to see rotation, but if you want the team to look better, especially with a whole new attacking lineup, if you want the team to look better, you need to be able to get some consistency in there as well. So it's a double, and that's not me advocating for no rotation. I want rotation. I want to see Bernardo coming at the weekend, for example. But there is also a huge conversation that has to be had about having consistent starters and having players gel together. So it's not easy. It's not like a video game. You know, it's not like a video game. It's not a Football Manager or FIFA, and you can just go, right, let's switch over to the other squad today. It's real life. And Celtic's football has been terrible. So how do you fix that? You get familiarity in the team, you get consistency, and you fix those cohesive issues. And maybe you just, a piece at a time, move things about. But I think, once again, that'll all start from here outwards. I think it starts on Saturday, to be quite honest. I think we should see some rotation on there on the game on Saturday. The Paulo Bernardo stuff is bizarre to me though, because I really like Bernardo, and it's not been easy for him. Like, I think that we are guilty of rewriting. So when we talk about how is he not getting to the team, well, he's not going to the team for the last couple of years because we've had so many midfielders, and it's maybe been difficult. But like, yeah, I do want to see him more often, 100%. Nathan saying Callum and Rio have been brilliant in a free with Rogic, Moy, O'Reilly, Bernardo, Engels and Iwata. That would suggest Nygren in there is what's making it unbalanced. I think there's an element of that that's true, Nathan, but just to be, I feel like I'm getting on McGregor's back here, and I really don't want to do that because he's one of my fucking favourite players of all time. But like, I think another thing that we have to just generally consider is the fact that Callum McGregor isn't a young boy anymore, and his legs are wearing out. He's played more football than most players would. So like, yeah, I mean, maybe Nygren is making it a bit unbalanced, but I don't think it's just that. I think that McGregor is just getting on a bit. And then obviously the people start questioning, if Rio's head's in it and all that jazz, but I'm not getting drawn into any of the conversations. I think there is an element of that though. You need to learn how to play with a new player. It's not every midfielder's going to come in and gel with them instantly. We've been lucky that O'Reilly came in, was like second, he fit like a glove. Moy came in, fit like a glove. Actually, Moy didn't fit like a glove. Took him a wee bit of time to get up to speed, if you remember rightly. There was a few games where Moy started at Celtic and he looked hopeless. I think you can all, if you all cast your minds back, you'll remember that. So I think we've been lucky we've had so many midfielders who have either came in, fitted straight away, or they've got into the rhythm of things quite quickly. Nygren has had 6 starts for the club, so maybe it's just a wee bit more time that he needs. Aye. I love Barca boys comment. This is one of the worst Celtic teams in recent times, or many years. We're getting humped tonight. I was brutally honest about this yesterday. If we got humped tonight, you know, serious questions would have to be asked about everybody that's involved on the pitch, including the manager. Like, we should not be getting humped off Red Star. And if I have to come on and do a fucking match reaction to us getting humped against Red Star, I think I'll be seriously angry. Because how can you go from, you know, Bayern Munich in February to getting humped off Red Star Belgrade? You know? It's nuts. Kevin saying, I took Moy a bit of time, but once he got his fitness up, he was great. Yep, I agree. Get a few more points and stuff in before we go. Still got a good, you know, close to 10 minutes before I go off anyway. So keep your points coming in. The team is on screen. Remember, kickoff is at 8 p.m. Remember that. It's live on TNT Sports. I mean, I hope that we're coming out and talking about a win, to be honest. I think it's easy to get drawn into a lot of pessimism about tonight's game, just with the way that everything's been and how we played against Kairat Almaty. But I think that the players will turn it up tonight. I think they have to turn it up tonight. I don't think they have an option not to. It's not like we can go here and just kind of pace our way through it. We need to be, you know, we need to be playing some high intensity stuff, I think. Otherwise, what's happened? You know? I can't fault people, like, for example, MW. I can't fault people not being confident. I think it's fair not to be confident. Let's see. 2-2 says Kevin Twist. I think a draw would be a good. It's one of those cliched things, isn't it? Like, oh, it depends on the nature. It depends on the nature of anything. You know, if we lose, it depends on the nature of how we lose. If we draw, it depends on the nature of how we draw. If we draw and we could have scored 10 goals, I'll be fucking fuming. Like, if we miss 10 sitters and draw the game, I'll be fucking on here going off my nut about how we can't score in a brothel. But if we, like, lost and we were really, really good and we were just, we were really good and we were unlucky, the keeper had a great game, and I'd be like, you're right, okay, cool, whatever. I think we'll pick it up in the remaining 7 games. And I think that's one thing. I said this on the Celtic Exchange. I think that unless it's an unmitigated disaster tonight, unless we were to go out there and lose fucking 5-0 and we couldn't kick our own arse, like, even if we do lose, and even if things don't go greatly, or don't end well for Celtic, I don't think we should quite lose our marbles yet. It's match day 1. It's just, I think to flip that, though, winning match day 1 would do wonders. Because you remember what it was like last year when we won match day 1 against Slovan Bratislava. You know, it gave Celtic a bit of confidence to build off, and that's what you want. Thank you, Philip, for the donation, mate. It's always good to see you. Foggy in Worcester tonight. Or this afternoon, I should say, because you're 6 hours behind or whatnot. 5 or 6 hours. Foggy. Do you know what? Something quite weird about. I like the fog. You know when it's too heavy. See, when it's just that kind of like light fog, I actually really like it. But when it's like fucking horrible, then you can't. Pardon me, Ryan. Anyway, got a couple of American fans in the chat tonight. I love that. Brilliant. Defending doesn't seem to be an issue in Europe since last season. We've kept 5 clean sheets in the Champions League. Problem is within the attack. We have lost so many goals. Yeah, hard to argue that. Last year, we had some great defensive performances. Atalanta being, of course, the standout. You know? So, I take that on board. I agree with that. Hope Maida doesn't deliberately sky chances tonight because he didn't get his move away. Well, listen, John. Maida's through the middle, as I expected. He needs a big game up there. I will be shitting myself if he goes 1-on-1 with somebody tonight. You know that I will be absolutely kicking my brakes. You know, I will be kicking my brakes if that happens. Thank you, Lupin, for being a member for 12 months. We need to score first to get anything tonight. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that if you look back on, when I think about going down 1-0, I think of a certain night though in Rome. And we went down 1-0, and I remember being in the stands that night going, well, the trip's been great when I was half scooshed. And we ended up winning. And that was the Europa League as well. Will that happen if we go 1-0 down tonight? I'm not as confident. But I wouldn't write this off. You know? A couple of donations as well from Adam and Matthew. Thanks, lads. Matthew saying, if we lose, then I'm blaming the Rapture people. Oh, we're lucky we're here. We're so lucky the Rapture didn't take us. Did we all have our tinfoil hats on so we didn't get fucking taken by the Rapture? Adam, fancy making your bet builder. Right, let me think here. I don't know how many things you want. I'm going to say... I was going to say Marko Arnautovic for a card, but what are the odds in that actually happening? I mean, forwards get booked quite frequently nowadays. Do you know what? I'm bugging it. If you, well, no, don't take Arnautovic. I'm throwing you away money there. Let's go Tenekte anytime to score. Tenekte anytime to score. Donovan to be booked. Fuck it, and Arnautovic to be booked. See what that gets you. I'm saying it. I can see Arnautovic getting booked tonight. Bugging it. There you go. It's not going to happen, but there you go. So we've got about a few more minutes, so if you get your points in about tonight's game, and we'll get through them very, very quickly. JCFC saying, Iheanacho had to start for me. Maida on the right would have gave me more confidence than Yang by a long distance. I think when you put it like that, yeah, I would have raveled anybody than Yang on the right-hand side, to be quite honest. However, I do just think, and listen, this isn't me saying I've not been happy with him, because I've been impressed with what I've seen of Iheanacho so far. I like the look of the big man. And I think that he is somebody that will grow into the role quite nicely off first impressions. But what I will say is, it's a big game, and I think that it's evident that he's not all there yet, fitness-wise. And I just don't think I think it's the kind of game you need pace up front, especially because we'll get a lot of chances. So yeah, listen, I'm not annoyed about Iheanacho being on the bench, but I can certainly see why you would have rather him than Yang on the park. You know, I could have seen that. Maida's pace should give them issues. Yeah, I don't think the back line is very quick. So I can see why he's maybe went Yang. I mean, this might turn out being... Listen, I hate... That's terrible. I don't hate anybody. I was about to say, I'm not Yang's biggest fan, right? I'm not. I would rather see him on the bench than on the park tonight. However, if what I'm hearing about their back line is true, it could turn out to be a masterstroke from the manager. If their defenders are as slow as they're meant to be, which I'm only taking as I've not watched for evidence, if their defenders are as slow as they're meant to be, Yang playing might come across as a bit of a masterstroke. So we'll only know but when the game is underway, whether or not that's the case. But we'll see. I think that Iheanacho will get on the park though. I think we'll see him before the game's out, and then we'll see what he does there if he moves people about. I'm sure there'll be a wee bit of jiggery pokery with how he plays, who on what wing and whatever. So yeah, if we got, I mean, listen, Iheanacho wasn't the original target to be fair, but if we did get him in earlier, then maybe he would have been fit going into this game. Anyway, right, that's it for the pre-match stream. I've got a new chair, by the way, in case anybody's noticed. It's actually very comfy. I'm enjoying it now, so I'm trying to make sure the angles and stuff are right. But I'm going to wrap up things for there tonight. I will be back, of course, after the game for the post-match reaction. I am hoping to God it's a positive one. Let's start off this Europa League with a bang, shall we? I'll see you there for that. Enjoy the game, and